The shriek from the hallway was followed by the deafening crash of a porcelain tray. Anya flinched, her eyes squeezing shut. She didn't even have to look. She knew, with the bone-deep weariness of a long-lost battle, that it was Leo's invisible wire prank. Again. "Brat!" the serving maid, a young Omega named Ilara, shrieked. "I'll have your hide!" "You can't catch me!" 10-year-old Leo's voice echoed, followed by the thunder of his boots on the oak floor. From the grand staircase, the sound of the pack's mating ceremony preparations, laughter, the tuning of a cello, the clink of glasses, drifted up. It was a world away. Down here, in the servants' wing, it was just Anya, a furious maid, and a puddle of soup that she knew, somehow, she would be the one to clean up. This was her life, trapped between the grief-fueled chaos of her charges and the cold indifference of the pack she served. She found 8-year-old Mia, the quiet accomplice, hiding in the linen closet, her small body trembling with suppressed giggles. "That was not kind, Mia," she said softly, her voice already tired. Ilara could have been hurt. She called Leo a brat. Only Mama could call him a brat. Anya's heart ached. Mama, Freya, the late Luna, the woman who had been her friend, the reason she was still here. She knelt, ready to start another gentle lecture, when a cold, imposing shadow fell over the doorway. The laughter and the chaos died instantly. Alpha Kaelen, his face a mask of thunder, had arrived. He didn't look at his children. He looked, with icy disappointment, right at Anya. Chapter 1. Control them. My study now. Alpha Kaelen didn't wait for a reply. He just turned and walked away, expecting her to follow. Anya's stomach twisted. She gave the children a look that promised, "We will discuss this later," and hurried after him, her servant's apron feeling like a lead weight. The Alpha study was as cold as he was. Dark wood, maps on the wall, and ledgers piled high. He didn't sit. He stood by his desk, tapping a single, impatient finger on a stack of papers. "Another incident, Anya," he stated. It wasn't a question. "That is the third this week. You are a pack nurturer. Your one job is to nurture them. Quietly." "Alpha, they are just children," Anya defended, her voice quiet but firm. "They're excited about the ceremony and they are grieving," Kaelen cut her off, his voice dangerously low. "Do not use my late wife as a justification for your incompetence." Anya flinched, as if struck. Incompetence. The word was a slap. She was the only one who could get Mia to eat, the only one who could talk Leo down from a full-blown tantrum. "They need their father, Alpha," she said, her bravery overriding her fear. Kalen's eyes flashed, his alpha aura pressing down on her, demanding submission. "They have you, and you are failing. Lady Seraphina arrives tomorrow. My entire pack, my future Luna, will be here for the mating ceremony. I will not have my house or my children looking like a den of feral pups. Do you understand me? Control them." He dismissed her with a wave. Anya walked out, her hands shaking, her heart a cold knot of anger and shame. She was being blamed for a wound she hadn't caused, and the man with the knife was telling her to fix the bleeding. Chapter 2. The Ghost of Freya. It was well past midnight when the pack house finally fell quiet. Anya, having long since cleaned up the soup, sat in the nursery, rocking gently. The feral pups were finally asleep. Leo, so full of rage and rebellion, looked like an angel in the moonlight, his face soft and free of the scowl he always wore for his father. Mia was curled on her cot, her small hand clutching a silver locket. Freya's locket. Anya picked up the small blanket from the floor and draped it over Mia, her hand lingering on the child's hair. This was the only part of the job that wasn't a job.
This was love. She had been Freya's handmaiden, her closest friend. She had been there when both pups were born. She had been in the room, holding Freya's hand when she died. "He won't know what to do," Freya had whispered, her voice a dry rasp, her eyes already fixed on the children. "He'll bury his heart with me. Don't let them feel alone, Anya. Promise me you'll stay." Anya had promised. She was trapped by that promise. Her loyalty wasn't to Kaelen, who treated her like a failing employee. It was to the ghost of the woman she missed every day, and to the 2 broken children she was a poor substitute for. "I'm trying, Freya," she whispered into the darkness, "but he's making it so hard." A sound from the courtyard below drew her to the window. A heavy, ornate carriage pulled by 6 black horses was rolling to a stop. Torches were lit. Servants scrambled. A woman in a magnificent fur cloak stepped out, her posture proud and arrogant. Lady Seraphina, the future Luna, had arrived a day early, and Anya's stomach filled with a cold, absolute dread. Chapter 3. The New Luna's Shadow. The pack house was a different place the next morning. It was tense, buzzing with the electric, sharp energy of Lady Seraphina. She had emerged from her chambers dressed in a deep crimson gown that made her look like a queen, and the entire staff was tripping over themselves to please her. Anya tried to keep the children out of the way, serving them their breakfast in the quiet nursery. It didn't work. "There they are," Seraphina's voice, bright and false, trilled from the doorway. She swept in, Alpha Kaelen at her side, his face set in a strange, polite mask. "Kaelen, darling, you must let me have a hand with them. They're so spirited. They clearly need a firm alpha hand." Her words were a direct cut at Anya. Mia, who was always shy around new people, hid behind Anya's skirts. Leo, ever defiant, just glared at the newcomer. "This is Lady Seraphina, children. She will be your new Luna. Say hello." Leo just crossed his arms. "You're not our mother." Kaelen's face darkened. "Leo." Seraphina let out a tinkling gold laugh. "Of course I'm not, you silly boy. Your mother is gone." She looked at Anya. "And it's high time someone stopped letting them live in the past. Don't you agree, Nanny?" Chapter 4. The Berry Jam Wall. Anya's blood ran cold. The casual cruelty of the remark, the way she dismissed Freya's nunnery, was breathtaking. Before Anya could respond, Kaelen put a hand on Seraphina's back. "Darling, let's tour the grounds. Anya, see to them." Anya spent the rest of the day in a state of high anxiety. The mating ceremony was that night. The house was full of guests. Her one job was to keep the children clean, quiet, and invisible. She laid out their formal clothes, a small suit for Leo, a velvet dress for Mia, and went to fetch the special silver-backed brushes from her own room. She was gone for less than 3 minutes. It was the silence that alerted her. She ran back to the nursery. It was a war zone. Leo and Mia had found the crates of expensive imported berry preserves intended for the high table's dessert. They had been painting. The priceless silk-threaded wallpaper was smeared with sticky purple-black jam. Their formal clothes were ruined. And in the center of the wall, in huge childish letters, was one word: no. Anya's hands flew to her mouth, a small cry of despair escaping her. She grabbed a rag and began scrubbing frantically, her hands already stained purple. "Leo, how could you? Your father will—"
I don't care, Leo shouted, his face a mask of defiant grief. She's not our mother. I won't let her be. Anya, what is this filth? Anya froze, her back to the door. She turned slowly. Serafina stood there, her face a mask of pure disgust. Behind her, his eyes blazing with the fury she had never seen, was Alpha Kaelen.
Chapter 5. Relic of a Ghost. Kaelen was mortified, humiliated. He had been bragging to Serafina about the order of his pack, and she had just walked into this childish, sticky, common rebellion. My goodness, Serafina said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, though her eyes were triumphant. You poor thing, Kaelen, to be left with such feral children. And this Nanny, she waved a dismissive hand at Anya, clearly has no control. Kalen's rage, which had been simmering all day, found its target. He didn't look at his children. He looked at Anya. Alpha, I am so sorry, Anya began, her hands stained purple. They're just upset they don't mean. Do you know why you are still in this house? He snarled, his voice lethally cold, cutting her off. Anya flinched. Alpha, you are here for one reason, because my late wife, Freya, made me promise. You were her personal maid, and she trusted you. She thought you, he scoffed, gesturing to the jam-smeared wall, could handle them. He took a slow, menacing step closer. She was wrong. Tears sprang to Anya's eyes. That's not fair. You haven't helped them. You've coddled them into monsters. You are not a nurturer. His voice rose, echoing in the hall. You are just a relic, a ghost Freya left behind, and I am done with ghosts. He had said it, the cruelest thing he could possibly say. My new Luna finds your presence disruptive, and so do I. You are replaced. Pack your bags and be gone by sundown. He turned, took Serafina's arm, and left Anya alone in the wreckage. Chapter 6. A Broken Promise. Anya stood motionless for a full minute. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip of jam from the wall onto the floor. The children were finally silent, their rebellion crushed by the sheer, cold violence of their father's words. Leo's defiant expression had crumbled, replaced by a pale, stunned look of horror. Mia was quietly weeping, her face buried in her sticky hands. Anya looked at them. Then she looked at the jam, then at her own stained hands. Promise me you'll stay. Freya's voice, a whisper from the grave. Anya had held on to that promise through every prank, every tantrum, every cold look from Kaelen. She had endured his ingratitude and his blame because she loved these children, because she had loved their mother. But this was different. He hadn't just fired her. He had taken her love for Freya, her loyalty, her grief, and twisted it into a weapon. He had called her a relic, a ghost. He had told her she was a failure. She looked at the children, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. She couldn't protect them. Not from this. Not from him. He wasn't just grieving. He was cruel. He was a man who would tear down the last person their children loved just to impress a new woman. Her promise to Freya was to keep them from being alone. But she couldn't save them from their own father. He had broken the promise, not her. She walked out of the nursery, past the stunned children, and down the hall to her own small room. She didn't look back. She pulled her small travel bag from under her bed. She was leaving. Chapter 7. A Silent Goodbye. Anya's small room was bare in less than 10 minutes. She had so little to pack. She clutched her travel bag at the door, her knuckles white. She could hear the faint sound of music from the great hall, the mating ceremony. Kaelen would be celebrating his new life, his new Luna. He had already forgotten her. But she hadn't forgotten them. She couldn't leave, not like this. Her feet, moving on their own, carried her back to the nursery. The door was still open. The jam was still on the wall, a monument to their pain. The children were asleep on their cots, their formal clothes still on, sticky and ruined. They had cried themselves to exhaustion. Leo's face, so full of rage, was slack in sleep, a single tear track drying on his cheek. Mia's hand was still clutching the silver locket. Anya knelt, her heart physically breaking. This was the real betrayal. Kaelen hadn't just fired her, he had forced her to abandon them. She dipped her own handkerchief into the water basin, and with a touch as light as a ghost, gently wiped the jam and tear stains from Leo's face. She did the same for Mia. She kissed them both on the forehead. "I'm sorry, Freya," she whispered to the ghost in the room. "I can't stay. I can't. He won't let me." She placed her own worn-out woolen gloves on the bedside table, the only thing she had to give. A pathetic last gift. Then, as the music swelled from the floor below, Anya slipped out the nursery's back door, down the servant stairs, and into the cold, unforgiving night. Chapter 8. The Chaos Begins. The next morning, the new Luna Serafina was awakened not by a gentle maid, but by a high-pitched, wailing scream. A new nanny, a stern beta woman named Griselda, was in the nursery staring at an empty room. Anya's small cot was bare, the sheets folded. The children were gone. "Find them!" Kaelen roared, his head pounding from the night's celebrations. They were found an hour later, locked in the main pantry, having eaten an entire honey cake for breakfast. Mia was hysterical, her face smeared with honey, screaming for Anya. "I want Anya! She promised! She promised!" Leo was worse. He was silent. He simply stood with his arms crossed, his eyes full of a cold adult hatred. When Nanny Griselda tried to grab his arm, he bit her hard. When Kaelen was finally brought in, he saw the chaos. "Get in here!" "She's gone, Alpha," Griselda said, nursing her bleeding hand. "Her room is empty. She fled in the night." Kaelen was stunned, then annoyed. "Fled? Ridiculous. She's just an Omega. She has nowhere to go. She'll be back begging for her position." "Fine, let her freeze for a day. It will teach her a lesson." Leo looked at his father. "You made her go," he whispered, his voice trembling with a new, terrifying rage. "You sent her away, just like you sent Mama away." "That is enough, Leo." "I hate you," Leo shrieked. "I grabbed a plate and hurled it against the wall, shattering it. I hate you and I hate her." He pointed at Serafina. "We want Anya." Chapter 9. The Border Crossing. Anya had been walking for hours, following the river downstream. She was exhausted, cold, and her feet were blistering. She had no money, no food, no pack. The freedom she had imagined just hours before now felt like a terrifying, crushing vulnerability. In this world, a lone Omega was prey. She knew she had reached the edge of Kaelen's Shadowfall territory. The trees here were different. The air smelled sharper of pine and cold steel. This was the border of the Iron Throne Pack, Kaelen's rival, his cousin, Alpha King Darius. Anya pressed on, desperate. Maybe she could disappear into one of their border villages. A twig snapped. She froze. She was being watched. She could smell them. 4 wolves hidden in the dense forest. 4 massive wolves emerged from the trees, their pelts a mix of gray and black. They didn't growl, they just stood, blocking her path, their intelligent eyes watching her. The lead wolf, a huge gray male with a scar on his muzzle, shifted. The man who stood in his place was tall, armored in black leather, and looked even more intimidating. Alone Omega, you are far from home. You carry the sons of the Shadowfall pack. What are you doing in the king's territory? Anya sank to her knees, her bag dropping to the dirt. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. I am seeking refuge. I mean no harm. The man stared at her for a long moment. Refuge from what? From my Alpha.
Chapter 10, The Iron Throne King. The patrol guard, sensing the truth in her desperation, did not harm her. He simply nodded. We will take you to the king. He will decide. Anya was escorted not to a dungeon, but to a rugged, imposing fortress of black stone and iron. It was less of a pack house and more of a castle. It was strong, efficient, and clean. She was brought to the central training yard where the sound of clashing steel echoed. A man, stripped to his waist despite the cold, was sparring with 2 of his best warriors. He was a wall of muscle and old scars, his movements precise and brutal. He parried a blow, disarmed one man, and slammed the other to the ground, all in one fluid motion. He stood panting, sweat glistening on his skin, his long black hair tied back. Alpha King Darius, the guard said, bowing. We found this Omega at the southern border. She claims refuge. Anya trembled as the man turned. This was the king, Kaelen's cousin. Darius's eyes, a piercing ice blue, locked onto her. He walked closer. He wasn't sniffing the air, he was just looking at her worn-out boots, her cheap cloak, her tear-stained face. He knew her scent. You're the Nanny, he said. His voice was a deep baritone laced with surprise. Anya flinched. Yes, my king, I was the pack nurturer for Alpha Kaelen. I know who you are, Darius said, his voice softening just a fraction. My cousins, Leo and Mia, they speak of you. At the last summit, it was all they would talk about. He looked at her tattered state. Why would my cousin let you run? He dismissed me, Anya whispered, fresh tears burning her eyes. Darius's face hardened. He looked at his guard. Take her to the guest wing, find her a hot bath, a hot meal, and a new cloak, and post a guard, not to keep her in, to keep everyone out.
Chapter 11. Not a servant, a guest. Anya was stunned. Guest wing? Darius picked up a towel, his eyes never leaving hers. My cousin is a fool, but this is not his land, and you are not his servant. In my house, we do not turn away those seeking refuge. You are a guest of the Iron Throne pack. Anya was led by a kind-faced beta maid to a room larger than Kaelen's entire study. It had a roaring fireplace, a soft fur-covered bed, and a deep coppered tub that was already being filled with steaming water. The Alpha King has ordered a meal for you, my lady, the maid said. My lady. Anya nearly choked. She hadn't been called that since ever. She was just Anya, just the nanny. She sank into the hot water, the scent of lavender and pine soap washing over her. She scrubbed her hands, watching the last of the purple berry jam stains swirl and fade down the drain. It was symbolic. She was washing away the humiliation, washing away Kaylee and Serafina and the cold, thankless house she had called home. She felt safe for the first time in years. She fell into the soft bed, exhausted, and slept for 16 hours. But when she woke, the fear returned.
cold and sharp. She was a guest, but a guest can be asked to leave, and she was still by law a member of the Shadowfall pack, a relic. Kaelen was an alpha, Darius was an alpha. What would happen when her cousin came to claim his property? She knew with a sickening certainty that he would, not because he wanted her, but because his pride would demand it.
Chapter 12. 2 years of silence. 2 years. 2 years had passed since Anya fled in the night. The first 6 months in the Iron Throne pack had been spent looking over her shoulder, a constant low thrumming fear that Kaelen would storm the gates and drag her back. But he never came. The silence from the Shadowfall pack was absolute. She was, it seemed, truly replaced, forgotten. A thought still sent a pang of grief through her, not for Kaelen, but for Leo and Mia. She was no longer a guest. She was Anya of the Iron Throne, the respected head of the pack's nursery and education wing. She wasn't a nanny, she was an administrator. She trained other Omegas, designed curricula for the Pups, and even advised the King's Council on matters of pack welfare. Alpha King Darius was a man of few words, but his actions were clear. He listened to her. He valued her insight. He treated her not as a servant, but as an equal. The quiet respect he showed her, the way his ice-blue eyes would sometimes soften when he watched her with the Pups, had slowly mended the cracks in her heart. She was safe. She was respected. For the first time in her life, she was at peace. She had just finished reading a story to a group of pups when Darius appeared at the nursery door, a rare soft smile on his face. Anya, a moment? She followed him into the hall. My king? I am attending the Continental Summit. I wish for you to come with me, not as a nurturer.
Chapter 13. Nanny number 15. The shriek echoed through the Shadowfall pack house. A moment later, a wolfish-looking beta woman, Nanny number 15, Kaelen thought, or was it 16, stormed down the grand staircase, her hair askew, a live frog dangling from her collar. I don't care about the pay, Alpha, she screamed at Kaelen, who was standing in his study doorway. Your children are demons. They are feral. They put glue in my boots, snakes in my bed, and now this. I am done. She ripped the frog off, threw it on the floor, and ran out the front door, her sobs trailing behind her. Kaelen roared, his alpha power shaking the walls. Leo, Mia. Silence. This was his life. For 2 years, ever since Anya had left, his house had been in a state of perpetual, escalating chaos. His children were uncontrollable. They had terrorized 15 different nannies, all highly qualified, all ruinously expensive. He'd thrown money at the problem. He'd tried sternness. He'd tried ignoring it. Nothing worked. He stormed up to the nursery. It was empty. He found them in Anya's old, cold room, which they had turned into a den. Who was it this time? Kaelen growled. Mia, now 10, just shrugged. Leo, 12, met his father's gaze with a cold, unchildlike stare. She was stupid. She was your nanny. Anya was our nanny. Leo shot back, his voice low. You sent her away, and will keep sending them away until you bring her back. Anya is gone. She abandoned you. You fired her. You called her a ghost. We heard you. Kaelen flinched, the truth of his son's words hitting him like a physical blow. He had no response. He just stood there, a powerful alpha, rendered helpless by 2 grieving, furious children.
Chapter 14. The Stepmother's Shadow. You are too soft on them, Kaelen. Seraphina's voice, sharp as glass, cut through the tense silence. She was standing at the nursery door, wrapped in a silk robe, her face a mask of annoyance.
They are your children. Command them to behave." "It is not that simple," Kaelen growled, rubbing his temples. "It is exactly that simple. They are spoiled. That Omega nanny, Anya, ruined them. She let them run wild. Now you are paying the price." This had become her favorite refrain. Everything was Anya's fault. Later that day, Kaelen was locked in a border dispute meeting. Serafina, tasked with watching the children, did no such thing. She had a party to plan. She found Mia in the garden, crying softly, clutching Freya's locket. "Oh, for the goddess's sake, are you crying again? No wonder your father can't stand to be near you. You're so weak, just like your mother was." Mia's head snapped up. "Don't you talk about my mama!" "Your mama is dead," Serafina said, her voice cruel. "And that locket is tacky. Give it to me." She snatched for it. Mia screamed and pulled back, and the delicate chain snapped. The locket, Freya's locket, flew from her hand and skittered across the patio, disappearing between the stones. Mia's scream was not one of sadness. It was a raw, primal shriek of loss. When Kaelen finally ran out, he found Mia feral, scratching and biting a furious Serafina. "She broke Mama's locket! She broke it!" "She's lying! The little brat attacked me!" Serafina shrieked. Kaelen looked from his crying, hysterical daughter to his enraged, scratched new wife. He was tired. He was stressed. He made his choice. "Mia, go to your room, now." He had sided with his wife. Again. Mia stared at him, her face crumbling in betrayal, before she turned and fled.
Chapter 15. The Rot in Shadowfall. Kaelen's failure as a father was beginning to infect his pack. He sat in a pack council meeting, his betas and elders looking at him with a disapproval they no longer bothered to hide. "Alpha," his senior beta, Marcus, said, "the kitchens are in chaos. Luna Serafina's demands for her parties are draining our stores. The pack members are complaining they don't have enough for their own families. The training grounds are half empty," his lead warrior added. "Your children's rebellion is inspiring others. The pack thops are becoming disrespectful. There's no discipline. There is no heart." Heart. That word again. Kaelen's pack felt like his house, cold, empty, and falling apart. Serafina was a terrible Luna. She was vain, selfish, and had no interest in the pack's welfare. She was a socialite, not a mother or a leader. He had made a catastrophic mistake. He had traded a diamond for a chart of glass. He had rejected the one person who had been his pack's and his children's true heart. That night, he sat alone in his study. The silence of the house was heavy, broken only by the sound of Serafina yelling at a servant. He opened his bottom drawer. Tucked in the back was a small, crudely drawn picture of a wolf family. Mia had drawn it for him 2 years ago. Anya had pinned it to his desk. He hadn't just fired a nanny. He had banished the glue that held his entire life together. He was no longer just annoyed. He was desperate. "Marcus!" he roared. The beta appeared at the door. "Alpha?" "Find her," Kaelen commanded, his voice raw. "I don't care what it takes. I don't care where she is. Find Anya. Bring her back."
Chapter 16. Healing a Heart. Anya had never felt silk against her skin until she came to the Iron Throne. She stood on the balcony of the summit tower, dressed in an elegant gown of steel gray and blue, the colors of Darius's pack. She was no longer a nanny. She was, as he had introduced her to the other alphas, his chief counsel on pack welfare. For 2 years, Alpha King Darius had treated her with a deep, quiet respect that had been more healing than any medicine. He was a stern man, a warrior king, but he listened. He had sought her advice on the pack nursery, then on the pack schools, then on trade disputes with the villages. He had valued her mind. The fear of Kaelen had faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. She and Darius had fallen into a partnership that was as natural as breathing. Theirs was not a fiery, passionate romance, but a slow-growing bond built on mutual admiration. "You were 1,000 miles away," Darius's deep voice rumbled. He came to stand beside her, his presence a familiar wall of warmth and strength. I am just remembering another ceremony," Anya said quietly. Darius nodded, knowing exactly what she meant. He placed his large, scarred hand over hers on the stone railing, a simple, possessive gesture. "You are not that woman, Anya. You're not a servant. You are not a ghost. You are the heart of my pack. Do not let the shadows of his," he said, the word his dripping with contempt, "touch you here." She leaned her head on his shoulder, a gesture of trust. "He won't. He can't." "He can do nothing," Darius said, his voice final. "You are not his. You are ours."
Chapter 17. The Scent of a Ghost. Kaelen stormed into the summit hall, his face a mask of thunder. Luna Serafina, dripping in jewels, was at his side, complaining bitterly about the quality of the wine. "Must we be here, Kaelen? This is so rustic. And your cousin's territory? It smells like wet iron." "Be silent," Kaelen snapped. He was not here for politics. He was here for her. His beta, Marcus, had finally tracked her down after months of searching. The trail had led impassably here, to the Iron Throne. "Alpha," Marcus said, appearing at his side. "I have confirmed it. She is here." A wave of possessive, desperate relief washed over Kaelen. He'd found her. He would apologize. He would triple her pay. He would give her anything. He just needed her to fix his broken children. "Where is she?" Kaelen demanded, scanning the crowd, expecting to see her in a servant's apron, perhaps in a quiet corner. In the kitchens? The nursery? Marcus looked deeply uncomfortable. "No, Alpha." "Then where?" "She is in the main delegation." Before Kaelen could process that, Serafina let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Oh, look, darling. It's the nanny. And look what she's wearing." Kalen's head snapped in the direction of her pointed finger. His blood turned to ice. Chapter 18. The Unrecognizable Nanny. He saw her. But it wasn't her. It wasn't the tired, grief-worn Omena in a plain woolen dress he had fired. This woman was radiant. She was dressed in a steel gray gown that shimmered like armor. Her hair, which she used to wear in a simple, severe bun, was coiled in an elegant, intricate style. She was laughing, her head tilted back as she spoke with a visiting Alpha, and she was standing beside his cousin, Darius, as if she belonged there. Kaelen felt a primal, possessive rage that had nothing to do with his children. It was the simple, animalistic anger of mine. He had discarded her, but he did not expect anyone else to pick her up. "Anya!" he barked, his voice an alpha command that cut through the hall's chatter. The laughter stopped. Anya froze, her back going rigid. She turned, her face paling. Their eyes met across the room. Kaelen saw fear, but it wasn't the cowering terror she used to show him. It was the shock of seeing a ghost. He started toward her, his path direct and uncompromising. "You are coming home," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Now." Chapter 19. The Meeting of Cousins. Anya's hand instinctively went to her stomach as Kaelen approached, a human shield against the man who had shattered her life. Before Kaelen could take 2 more steps, Darius moved. He didn't shout, he didn't posture. He simply stepped in front of Anya, a silent, immovable wall of power. "Cousin," Darius's voice was lethally calm. "You are not welcome here." "This is between me and my servant," Kaelen growled, trying to shoulder past him. "Anya, I am your alpha. You will come with me." Darius's hand shot out, clamping onto Kaelen's wrist like a steel trap. The crack of bone was narrowly avoided, but the message was clear. "She is not your pack, Kaelen," Darius said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous rumble. The air around them crackled with his barely contained power. "You have no claim on her. You gave that up the day you threw her out." "She is a runaway nanny," Kaelen roared, his pride stung by the public display. "A relic. She is nothing." "She is the honored counsel of the Iron Throne," Darius corrected him, his grip tightening. "And you will unhand her or you will lose that hand. I will not warn you again." Kaelen, his wrist trapped, was humiliated. He was outmatched. He turned his gaze to Anya, who was watching, her face pale but her eyes dry. She wasn't crying. He played his trump card. His voice softened, becoming desperate. "Anya, please, our children. They are suffering. Leo and Mia, they are broken. They need you. I need you."
Chapter 20. She is my queen. The words were a dagger to Anya's heart. Leo and Mia, broken. The 2 years of peace, the new life, it all wavered. The image of 2 small children, grieving and abandoned, flooded her. A tear, the first one Kaelen had seen, escaped her. She stepped out from behind Darius, her hand still protectively on her stomach. I am sorry for their pain, Kaelen," she whispered, her voice thick with an anguish he mistook for weakness. "I truly am, but—" Kaelen saw his opening. He pulled his wrist free from Darius's grasp. "Then come home. I will give you anything. I'll banish Seraphina, whatever you want." Anya shook her head, the tear tracing a path down her cheek. "You don't understand." She looked at Kaelen, her eyes full of a deep, profound pity. She took Darius's hand, the one that had just threatened to break his cousin. "My duty is here now," she said, her voice growing stronger. Kaelen's eyes followed her hand as she placed it over her own gently rounded, unmistakably pregnant belly. The world stopped. Pregnant? She was pregnant. With his child. Darius stepped to her side, his own large hand covering hers, a gesture of ultimate, final possession. "She is not your counsel, cousin, and she is not your nanny." He looked at Anya, his ice blue eyes melting with a warmth that Kaelen had never known. "She is my mate, and she is my queen."
Chapter 21. The Public Humiliation. Kaelen's world tilted. Pregnant? Pregnant? His mind, his entire being, rejected the sight. That was his nanny, his relic. She was not supposed to be radiant. She was not supposed to be a queen. And she was certainly not supposed to be carrying the child of his most powerful rival. He had come here to retrieve a servant. He had just been publicly shown that she had been elevated, impossibly above him. The hall was dead silent. Every Alpha, every Luna was watching. They had all heard Kaelen's desperate, pathetic plea, and they had all seen the final, devastating answer. Seraphina, who had been watching with smug amusement, saw her own status vaporize. She let out a high, incredulous laugh. "Pregnant? With his child?" she hissed,
her voice loud in the silence. "Well, that didn't take you long. You truly are a—" "Be silent." The command was not from Darius. It was from Kaelen. He turned to his new wife, his eyes no longer desperate, but filled with a cold, murderous rage. He had been humiliated, and she was the one who had pushed him. She was the one who had told him to cast Anya out. "This is your fault," he growled, low and vicious. He turned his back on his own Luna, a public shunning that made Seraphina gasp. He ignored Darius. He ignored the entire hall. He looked only at Anya, his face a mask of regret so profound it was terrifying. "What have I done?" he whispered, his voice cracking.
Chapter 22. An Alpha on his knees. Anya saw the man in front of her shatter. The arrogant alpha, the cold employer, the regretful father, it all collapsed, leaving only a broken, desperate man. His eyes were fixed on her, then on her rounded belly, then back to her. He was realizing in real time that he hadn't just lost a Nanny. He had lost a queen. He had thrown away the one person who could have saved his family, and his greatest rival had claimed her. "Anya, please," he choked out. The entire hall was watching. He didn't care. "Kaelen, you must go," Anya said softly, her pity for him warring with her own pain. "No, you don't understand," he said, taking a step forward. My children, our children, they're dying inside. Leo, he hasn't been a child in 2 years. Mia, she just sits and waits for you. They ask for you every single day. I was a fool. He couldn't say it. The pride of an alpha was too strong. Darius stepped forward. "Kaelen, leave. Now." "I can't," Kaelen roared, his desperation finally breaking his pride. "I don't care about my pack. I don't care about my title. I care about my son. He is fading. Please, Anya, I'm... He stumbled forward, his legs giving out, and in the center of the great hall, in front of 100 alphas and his own cousin, Alpha Kaelen of the Shadowfall pack, fell to his knees. He knelt. "I beg you," he sobbed, his head bowed. "Save my son." The room stopped breathing, and Alpha did not kneel, not to anyone. Chapter 23. The Queen's Compromise. Darius's aura exploded, a wave of pure, cold fury. "Get up," he snarled at Kaelen. "You will not beg from my queen." He was ready to kill his cousin. "Darius, stop." Anya's voice was quiet, but it held the authority of a Luna. She placed a hand on Darius's arm, and the killing intent receded, though his rage still simmered. This was her choice. She looked down at the man kneeling at her feet, the man who had called her a ghost. He was a ghost himself now, a hollowed-out version of the proud alpha he had been. She loved Leo and Mia. The thought of them fading was a physical pain. "I will not return to your house, Kaelen," she said, her voice clear and strong, leaving no room for negotiation. "Ever. My life," she said, placing a hand on her belly and looking at Darius, "is here." Kaelen's face crumpled. He had lost. "But," Anya continued, and his head snapped up, "I will not let them suffer. Not for your sins." She looked at Darius, a silent question. He stared back, his jaw tight, but he finally gave a short, sharp nod. He would do this for her. "Here is my compromise," Anya said, stepping into her power. "They may visit the Iron Throne. Once a month. They will stay for the weekend. I will talk to them. I will help them heal. For their sake." She looked down at him, her eyes cold. "Not for yours." Kaelen clung to this scrap of hope as if it were a lifeline. He nodded, still on his knees. "Yes, anything. Thank you. Thank you, my queen." Chapter 24. The Carriage Ride Home.
The ride back to the Shadowfall pack was silent and suffocating. Seraphina, who had been forced to wait by the carriage for over an hour, was vibrating with a rage that was almost comical in its impotence. She was the new Luna. She was the winner. So why did she feel like the one who had been discarded? "How dare you?" she finally hissed, her voice a venomous whisper in the dark carriage. Kaelen, who had been staring out the window, his mind 1,000 miles away, turned to her. His eyes were flat, empty. "How dare you humiliate me?" Seraphina shrieked, "nailing to that Omega, that Nanny. You are an Alpha, and she is a—" Kalen's hand moved so fast she didn't see it. He didn't strike her. He just grabbed the front of her expensive silk gown, his knuckles pressing into her breastbone. "You," he growled, his voice a low, terrifying rumble. "You are the one who told me to get rid of her. You are the one who called her a relic. You are the one who called my children feral." I, Seraphina stammered, her arrogance evaporating in the face of his cold fury. "You wanted her gone? Congratulations, she's gone. She's a queen, and now, thanks to you, my children, the heirs to my pack, must travel to my rival's land just to see the only mother they ever cared about." He shoved her back into the seat. "From this moment, you will not speak of Anya. You will not go near my children. You will stay in your rooms and plan your pathetic parties. I have 1 month to fix the damage you caused. 1 month before their first visit. Do not get in my way."
Chapter 25. The Locked Nursery Door. Kaelen returned to a house of vipers. The staff, who had heard rumors of the summit, looked at him with a new, thinly veiled contempt. He went straight to the nursery. Leo and Mia were there, not with a nanny, but with his beta, Marcus. They were sullen and silent. "Leo? Mia?" Kaelen said, his voice awkward. He hadn't been a father in so long he'd forgotten how. They just glared at him. I have news from the summit. I saw Anya." The reaction was electric. Mia shot to her feet. "Anya, where is she? Did you bring her home?" Leo was more cautious. "What did you do to her?" She is well," Kaelen said, forcing the words out. She has a new life at the Iron Throne, but she wants to see you." "She's not coming back," Leo stated, his voice flat. He had already figured it out. "No," Kaelen said, "but you are going to her for a visit in 1 month." Mia's face lit up with the joy he hadn't seen since Freya was alive, but Leo's was suspicious. "You're lying." "I am not lying," Kaelen snapped. "I will handle this, husband." Seraphina's voice came from the door. She had been listening. She glided in, a poisonous, sweet smile on her face. "A mother knows how to speak with children." She gently ushered Mia into the nursery wing. "Let's go, little one. We need to get you ready for your trip. We have so much to talk about." She shut the door. Kaelen heard the click of a lock. He frowned. A moment later, he heard a muffled thwack. A slap. Mia shrieked, "No! I hate you! I won't! Let me go!" Seraphina's voice was a low, venomous hiss. "You little brat! You will obey me! You will be perfect for this visit, or I will—" Another sharp smack! Kaelen roared. He didn't use the handle. He kicked the nursery door clean off its hinges.
Chapter 26. The Monster in the Room. Kaelen saw red. The doorframe splintered as his boot connected. He burst into the room in a blur of alpha rage. Seraphina was standing over Mia, her hand raised again, her face a mask of ugly, twisted fury. Mia was cowering against the wall, a bright red handprint blooming on her small cheek. Leo was there too, trying to shield his sister, a terrified, desperate look in his eyes. The moment Seraphina saw Kaelen, her expression of rage faltered, replaced by a flicker of shock, then defiant anger. "Kaelen, this is not your concern. This brat needs to learn. Get away.
from my daughter." Kaelen's voice was not a yell. It was a low, primal growl, the sound of a wolf about to rip a throat out. He moved with a speed she couldn't match, crossing the room in an instant. He didn't hit her. He did something worse. He shoved her, hard, against the wall, his forearm pinning her by the throat. "You struck her," he snarled, his power flooding the room, suffocating her. She's a child. She needs discipline," Serafina choked out, her claws scratching uselessly at his arm. "You will never," he seethed, "touch my children again." He ripped her away from the wall and threw her bodily out of the nursery into the hall where 2 guards stood, drawn by the crash. "Guards, escort the Luna to her rooms. She is not to leave. She is not to speak to anyone. Post a watch." Guards, stunned, they obeyed. Serafina, utterly humiliated, was dragged away. Kaelen turned back to the room. The alpha rage vanished, replaced by a cold, sickening horror. His children were staring at him, not with relief but with terror. He was just another monster who broke things.
Chapter 27. The Poison Plot. Kaelen's hands were shaking. He took a clumsy step toward his daughter. "Mia, are you... did she..." Mia just flinched and scrambled behind Leo, hiding her face. Leo stood his ground, his small fists clenched, ready to fight his own father. "You let her," Leo whispered, his voice trembling with a lifetime of betrayal. "You let her in." Kaelen had no answer. He was the alpha. He was their father, and he had failed on every conceivable level. I will fix this," he said, his voice hollow. He turned and left them, shutting the ruined door, the sound of Mia's quiet sobs echoing behind him. He was a failure. He paced the great hall for hours, the pack house silent and terrified around him. His wife, his Luna, had abused his child. He had been blind, arrogant, and stupid. Near midnight, his fury still burning, he went to her chambers. The guards at the door bowed. He was about to storm in when he heard voices, Serafina and her one loyal maid. "I can't believe he dared to touch me," Serafina was hissing. "For that little brat, it doesn't matter. The visit to the Iron Throne is in a month. It gives us time." "Time, my lady?" the maid asked, her voice nervous. "Time to be rid of them," Serafina snapped. "A little bit of dried wolfsbane in their travel packs, just enough. They'll seem to get sick on the road. By the time they reach the Iron Throne, they'll be grieving, and I can finally give my alpha his true heir, without those 2 pieces of baggage competing for it." Kaelen stopped breathing. It wasn't just a slap. It was a plot. It was premeditated murder. He didn't kick the store down. He opened it, slowly. Serafina and her maid froze, their faces turning to sheer, unadulterated terror. He knew.
Chapter 28. The Banishment of Serafina. The next morning, Kaelen called a full pack assembly. It was not a trial. It was a judgment. Serafina and her maid were dragged to the center of the great hall, bound in silver chains. The pack, who had only heard rumors of a fight, murmured in confusion. Kaelen stood before them, his face carved from ice. He held a small, dark vial of dried herbs in his hand. "This is Luna Serafina," he announced, his voice booming. "The woman I chose to be your Luna. The woman I chose in my blindness to be a mother to my children." He looked at Serafina, his eyes empty of all emotion. "Yesterday, I discovered her striking my daughter." The pack gasped. "Last night, I overheard her plotting with her maid to poison my son and my daughter on their journey to the Iron Throne." The gasp became a collective roar of outrage. To harm a pack's heirs was the ultimate, unforgivable sin. "She wished to remove the competition for her own future children.
Kaelen finished. Seraphina, seeing the murderous look in the eyes of the pack, finally broke. "No, he's lying. It was just talk. He can't prove." Kaelen tossed the vial of wolfsbane at her feet. "As Alpha of the Shadowfall pack, I find you guilty of treason against the pack line. You, Seraphina, and you, your accomplice, are hereby stripped of all titles and protections. You are banished. You will be escorted to the border of the Roguelands and left there. If you ever set foot in my territory again, you will be executed on sight." He turned his back on her. "Get them out of my sight."
Chapter 29. The Journey. The next month was the most difficult of Kaelen's life. He was a single father. The pack house was quiet, the staff walking on eggshells. He had no Luna, no wife, and no idea how to talk to his own children. He tried. He sat with them for meals. He read them reports, hoping to interest Leo in alpha duties. He bought Mia a new locket, a clumsy, expensive replacement. They were quiet. The rages were gone, but so was everything else. They were just two small, polite, empty shells. They were waiting, just waiting for the visit. The day finally came. Kaelen, not trusting them to any guard, escorted them himself. The 3-day carriage ride to the Iron Throne was a masterpiece of awkward silence. When they arrived, Kaelen was stunned. He had expected a border fortress. This was a city. The walls were high, the pack members looked well-fed and disciplined. It was strong. It was thriving. It was everything his own pack was not. The carriage stopped in the central courtyard. Alpha King Darius was standing on the steps, his face impassive. He was not alone. Beside him stood Anya. She was radiant. Her pregnancy was obvious now, a proud, round swell under a simple, elegant blue gown. She was not a nanny. She was a queen.
Chapter 30. The Queen's Pity. Mia was out of the carriage before it even stopped moving. "Anya!" She sprinted across the stone courtyard and launched herself into Anya's arms. Anya caught her, her eyes squeezing shut as she buried her face in Mia's hair, breathing her in. "Oh, my baby," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I missed you so much." Leo was slower. He walked, his pace trying to be dignified, but his fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white. He stopped in front of her. "You came?" Anya whispered, holding out her free hand. Leo's composure broke. He lunged forward and buried his face in her dress, his arms wrapping around her waist, holding on as if he were drowning. You left us," he choked out, the 2-year-old accusation finally escaping. "I know," she sobbed, her other hand stroking his hair. "I know, and I am so sorry." Kaelen stood by the carriage, a ghost at a feast. He was watching the family he had destroyed be rebuilt by another man. Darius stepped forward, putting a possessive, protective hand on Anya's back. He looked at Kaelen. "They are safe here, cousin. The terms of the visit will be honored." His gaze was cold. It was not a welcome, it was a business transaction. Anya finally looked up, her eyes meeting Kaelen's over her children's heads. He saw no anger in them, no triumph. He saw only a deep, profound, and devastating pity. "You may return in 3 days to collect them," Darius said, his voice a clear dismissal. Kaelen just nodded, his throat too tight to speak. He got back into his empty carriage, a king in a hollow kingdom, and left his children in the arms of the woman he had thrown away. Chapter 31. The First Meal. The guest wing of the Iron Throne Fortress was a suite of rooms, not a nursery. It was warm, bright, and filled with books and soft furs. But Leo and Mia were too tense to notice. Anya held their hands. "Are you hungry? I had the kitchens make your favorite, honey cakes and spiced milk." Mia nodded, but she wouldn't let go of Anya's hand, not even for a second. Leo was casing the room like a cornered animal, his eyes darting to the door, to the window, to the guards standing discreetly in the hall. "It's okay, Leo," Anya said softly. "You're safe here. No one will lock you in." His head snapped toward her, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and shame. He hadn't realized she knew. "I know, Leo," Anya said, answering his unasked question. "Your father. He told us what Serafina did." When the food was brought in, Anya saw the true depth of the damage. Mia flinched and ducked when the maid, a kind beta, set the tray down with a quiet thud. It was the sound of a hand being raised. Leo, seeing his sister's fear, stepped in front of her. "Don't touch her." "Leo, it's okay," Anya soothed, her heart breaking. "She's just bringing the food." At dinner that night, in Anya's private dining hall, Alpha King Darius joined them. He was an intimidating presence, and the children were silent, staring at their plates. Darius didn't try to charm them. He just sat, his presence a solid, unmovable weight. Finally, Leo, in his defiant way, spoke. "My father knelt to you." Anya tensed. Darius didn't even look up from his plate. "No," he said, his voice a calm rumble. "He knelt to her, to your queen. There is a difference." "Are you our new father now?" Leo challenged, his voice sharp. Darius finally met his gaze. His ice blue eyes weren't angry. They were assessing. "No, I am her king, and you will show her and my unborn heir the respect they are due."
Chapter 32. The King and the Heir. The next morning, Anya was exhausted, her pregnancy making her sleep heavily. She woke to an empty room. Panicked, she rushed outside, only to find Darius in the training yard with a very quiet, very watchful Leo. Darius was not teaching him to fight. He was teaching him to see. "What do you hear?" Darius asked. Leo scowled. "Birds, the wind, the guards at the gate." "What else?" Leo concentrated and said, "A blacksmith, 2 hammers. One is off rhythm and a horse with a loose shoe." Darius was impressed. "Your hearing is sharp. You have good instincts, but you use them to hide, to pull pranks. You use them for chaos." He paced in front of the boy. A true alpha uses his instincts to protect, to listen for the wolf caught in a trap, or the beta who doesn't have enough food. Your father, he leads with his rage. It makes him loud, but it makes him deaf. He tossed Leo a small, blunted training knife. An alpha's power is not in his roar, boy. It's in his focus. Show me yours. Leo had never been spoken to like this, not as a brat, not as a problem, but as a future alpha. He stood up straighter, his eyes, for the first time in years, clear and sharp. He wasn't being coddled, he was being seen. Chapter 33. A Mother's Ghost. That night, Anya was brushing Mia's hair when the little girl began to cry. Not the hysterical sobs of before, but the deep, racking sobs of true grief. She broke it," Mia whispered, her small hands twisting in her lap. "Mama's locket. Serafina, she called Mama weak, and then she broke it. And Papa, he sent me to my room." This was it, the core of the poison. Anya's heart shattered. She pulled Mia into her arms, kissing the top of her head, her own tears falling. "Oh, my sweet girl, that is a lie. A wicked, cruel lie." She pulled back, holding Mia's face in her hands. "Do you hear me, Mia? Your mother, Freya, was the bravest, strongest woman I have ever known. She was sick for so long, in so much pain, but she never cried where you could see. She only smiled. She held on through all of it, just to have one more day with you and Leo." Anya's voice was fierce. "Being strong isn't about shouting or fighting. It's about enduring. It's about protecting the ones you love no matter what it costs you. That was your mother. Don't you ever let anyone tell you she was weak." Mia's sobs softened, her breathing steadied. She looked up at Anya. You really think she was strong?" "I know it," Anya said, kissing her forehead. The second day, she took them to the river. She let them get muddy. She let them scream and laugh. She let them be children. But the visit was ending. The morning of the third day, they were silent again. They were clean, dressed, and waiting. They didn't want to go back. Chapter 34, Kaelen's Vigil. Kaelen hadn't returned to Shadowfall. He couldn't. He couldn't face the empty nursery, the silent halls, the pitying looks of his pack. He had spent 3 days in a small, cheap border inn just inside his own territory. He was just a male, not an alpha, not a father, just a man in a cold room with a bottle of cheap ale. He hadn't slept. He kept seeing Anya's face, not the terrified Nanny, not the triumphant queen, but the woman who had looked at him with pity. That was the look that gutted him. It was worse than hatred. It was the look you gave to something pathetic, something beneath you. And she was right. He had let his grief for Freya turn him into a monster. He had buried his heart just as his dead wife had predicted, and in his cold, hollow state, he had pushed away the only person who had tried to save his children. He had traded a diamond for a shard of glass. He had traded a queen for a sociopath. The rage was gone. The desperation was gone. All that was left was a vast, cold emptiness. He finally understood what he had lost. It wasn't just a nanny. It wasn't just Anya. He had lost his family. He had handed it, broken and bleeding, to his rival, and his rival was healing it. The morning of the third day, he splashed cold water on his face. He looked at the hollow-eyed stranger in the mirror. It was time to go and pick up his children. Chapter 35, The Handoff. Kaelen arrived at the fortress gates on the stroke of noon. He was clean, his clothes were immaculate, but he couldn't hide the haunted look in his eyes. They were waiting for him in the courtyard. Anya, Darius, Leo, and Mia. His children. They looked different. They were calm. Their faces were brighter. Mia wasn't hiding behind her brother. She was holding Anya's hand. Mia saw him and ran, not to him, but to Anya, giving her one last fierce hug. "Next month," she whispered. "Next month, sweet girl, I promise," Anya said. Leo, in a gesture that spun Kaelen to his core, walked up to Darius and gave a sharp, respectful bow. "Alpha King, thank you for your hospitality." Darius nodded, placing a hand on Leo's shoulder. "Focus, young Alpha. Protect your sister." Leo nodded. Anya gave each child a small parcel, honey cakes for the ride, and kissed them. She finally looked at Kaelen. The pity was gone. Her face was cool, polite, and neutral. "Until next month, Alpha Kaelen." It was a dismissal. Kaelen just nodded, his throat too tight to speak. He helped his children into the carriage. As it began to pull away, he looked back. He saw Darius wrap a protective arm around Anya's waist, pulling her back against his chest, claiming her. Kaelen turned, facing the long, empty ride home. "Papa," Mia's small voice broke the silence. "Yes, Mia?" Anya said Mama Freya would be proud of me," she said, her voice full of a new, quiet confidence. Because she was brave, and I'm brave too." Kaelen's composure shattered. Anya was not just healing his children, she was parenting them. She was restoring the memory of his first wife, a memory he himself had desecrated. He had lost,
in every way a man could lose.
Chapter 36. The Ghost in the Nursery. Kaelen returned to a pack house that felt like a tomb. Seraphina was gone, her expensive silks and perfumes banished with her. All that remained was the quiet, sterile silence of a house without a heart. He went to the nursery. He found his beta, Marcus, quietly supervising Mia as she drew at a small table. "Papa?" she asked, her voice small. Kalen's eyes were drawn to the floor. There, wedged between two floorboards, was a glint of silver. He knelt, his knees cracking, and pried it loose. It was Freya's locket. The chain was snapped, the silver tarnished from where Seraphina had broken it. He sat on the small nursery floor, his large alpha frame looking out of place, and held the broken piece of his past. This was it. This was the nexus of all his failures. His failure to protect Freya, his failure to protect his children, his failure to protect Anya. I can fix it, Papa," Mia whispered, seeing the look on his face. Kaelen looked at his daughter, his eyes burning. "Yes," he said, his voice raw. "Yes, we can. I will." That day he didn't go to his study. He didn't bark at his counsel. He sat on the floor with his daughter, and with a clumsy, patient hand, he mended the broken chain. He didn't just fix the locket. He began, for the first time, to fix his home. Chapter 37. The Heir of Iron Throne. The monthly visits became a new rhythm. The children would leave, tense and quiet, and returned 3 days later, brighter and calmer. Anya was deprogramming them, one visit at a time. She was replacing the poison of Seraphina with the truth of Freya. 6 months after the summit, a messenger hawk arrived at Shadowfall. It was not a political treaty. It was a formal announcement, sealed with the Iron Throne crest. Kaelen opened it. "To our allies and neighbors," it read, "know that on this day, the moon goddess has blessed our pack. Queen Anya has given birth to a son, a true-born heir. The pack rejoices." Kaelen stood by the window, the parchment in his hand. He felt a sharp, stabbing grief, a profound sense of loss that was so deep it was suffocating. This was the final, absolute seal on his failure. She was not just a queen. She was a mother again, to another's child. "Is it from Anya?" Leo asked from the doorway. He was holding a sparring stick, his stance already straighter, prouder. Kaelen folded the note. She had her baby, Leo. A boy." Leo was silent for a moment, processing. "That's good," he said, nodding. "She deserves to be happy." Kaelen looked at his son, this new, mature stranger. He had lost Anya, but she was, from a distance, saving his son. "Yes, she does," Kaelen whispered. He put the announcement on his desk. "Now, go practice your forms. We have a lot of work to do if you're to be a better alpha than your father."
Chapter 38. The Alpha's Shadow. 2 years passed. The carriage that arrived at the Iron Throne was different. Kaelen was driving it himself. When he stepped out, he was no longer the hollowed-out ghost. He was leaner, his face carved with new lines of humility, but his eyes were clear. Leo, now 14, and Mia, 12, stepped out after him. They were no longer brats. They were a young, confident alpha heir and a bright, strong beta female. "Papa, we'll see you on Sunday," Mia said, kissing his cheek. "Behave," Kaelen said, his voice warm. Anya was waiting for them on the steps, her 2-year-old son clinging to her legs. "Leo! Mia!" Kaelen watched his children run into her arms, a familiar ache in his chest. But it was no longer grief. It was just acceptance. Darius came out, nodding once to Kaelen. "Cousin." "Darius," he nodded back. I wanted to ask, Leo is sparring with your best. He needs more. Darius looked at Kaelen, his rival. He saw the change. This was not the arrogant fool from the summit. This was a father. He is strong, Darius agreed, but he leads with his anger, just as you did. He needs focus. I know, Kaelen said, a humbling admission. Will you teach him? It was the ultimate surrender. Train my heir, be the father I was not. Darius stared at him for a long moment. He is Anya's son too, and his heart. I will not let him fail. I will train him. Thank you, Kaelen said. He turned to leave, his duty done.
Chapter 39, The Two Lunas, Epilogue. Kaelen sat on a bench in the courtyard, watching his son get methodically taken apart by Alpha King Darius. He didn't wince. He watched Leo get up again and again, his focus absolute. He was proud. He has your strength, you know. Kaelen looked up. Anya was sitting beside him, her young son playing at her feet. And your stubbornness, Kaelen replied, a small smile touching his lips. He's a good boy, Kaelen. You did that, he said, not looking at her. You saved them. After everything. They saved themselves, Anya said softly. They just needed someone to show them it was safe to heal. She looked at him, her eyes clear and free of pity. And so did you. The air between them was peaceful, the old wounds finally scarred over. Mia ran over, her face bright. Anya, Papa, the kitchen made honey cakes. Can we all eat together? Kaelen looked at Anya, hesitant. Anya smiled, a true, warm smile. Of course. That night, for the first time, they sat at the same table. Kaelen, his two children, and the queen of the Iron Throne. It was a strange, broken, and beautiful family. When the visit was over, Kaelen embraced his children. He nodded to Darius, a gesture of true mutual respect. He paused in front of Anya. Thank you, Anya, for everything. Take care of them, Kaelen, she said. He nodded. He got into his carriage, his two children beside him, and turned for home. Anya watched them go, her heart full. She felt a strong arm wrap around her waist. Darius pulled her close, kissing her temple. You are a good woman, my queen, he rumbled. She was a good woman too, Anya whispered, thinking of Freya. Anya had kept her promise. She had not let them be alone. She was no longer a nanny or a ghost or a relic. She was the heart of the Iron Throne, a queen in her own right, her past finally at peace.